Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's fantastic to see you all here again. Today, I've got a truly mind-blowing story for you, one that involves a simple coin, but not just any coin. This is about the 1982 1-cent piece, which is worth an astounding $19.6 million today. Yes, you heard that correctly. A single 1-cent coin worth millions of dollars. It may sound unbelievable, but it's true, and the tale behind it is both fascinating and full of intrigue. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive into the incredible history of this extraordinary coin. The year 1982 was a pivotal one in many ways. The world was seeing significant shifts in technology, politics, and the global economy. For the United States, 1982 marked the year when inflation was high, and the cost of living was becoming a concern for many Americans. In the world of currency, the U.S. Mint was hard at work producing coins, including the 1-cent piece, which at the time was just a regular coin, as ordinary as any other. Little did anyone know that one of these pennies would eventually become one of the most valuable and sought-after coins in history. The 1982 1-cent coin, while mass-produced, would become famous not because of its design or historical significance, but because of a rare mistake during its production. Coin collectors, or numismatists, know that the value of a coin often comes from its rarity, its condition, and the story behind it. Coins with printing errors, misstrikes, or other imperfections can end up being worth far more than their face value. In fact, this is the story of how one small, seemingly insignificant coin, a penny, would one day become worth a fortune. It all started with a tiny mistake during the minting process. As you might know, the U.S. Mint uses large machines to press and produce coins. These machines strike the design onto the metal blanks, called planchets, creating the final product. In 1982, the U.S. Mint was transitioning between different metal compositions for its 1-cent coins. The earlier pennies were primarily made of copper, but rising copper prices led to the decision to switch to a zinc-based core with a thin copper plating. The new formula for the penny was a cost-saving measure, but it created a different kind of challenge for the minting process. During this period of transition, some coins were struck with the wrong mix of metals. Some of the 1-cent pieces from 1982 were mistakenly produced with the old copper composition rather than the new zinc core. These coins, which were produced in small numbers, weren't immediately recognized as valuable. In fact, they were largely overlooked for years. The coins that were minted with the wrong copper composition were indistinguishable from the rest of the pennies in circulation, and most people had no idea they had anything special in their pockets. For years, the 1982 copper pennies remained just another part of everyday life. People used them to pay for small items, and many simply tossed them aside or kept them in jars. But for a select few, these pennies held more significance. Some collectors, with an eye for detail and an understanding of minting processes, began to notice that some of the 1982 pennies were different. These pennies had the old copper composition and a distinct weight to them that wasn't quite like the newer, zinc-based pennies. The weight difference was subtle but noticeable to those with a trained eye. As more collectors became aware of this subtle discrepancy, interest in the 1982 copper pennies began to grow. Initially, the value of these coins didn't skyrocket immediately. It wasn't until a few years later that a small number of these coins, particularly those in excellent condition, began to catch the attention of serious collectors. The rarity of the 1982 copper penny, combined with the fact that only a small percentage of them had been produced, made them a highly coveted item. And as time passed, their value steadily increased. The story of the 1982 copper penny took a major turn when one particular coin, an exceptional specimen, was discovered. This particular penny had been well preserved over the years, and was in near-perfect condition, with sharp details and minimal wear. It was quickly recognized as one of the rarest examples of the 1982 copper penny, and collectors and investors alike began to take notice. The coin was sold at auction, and the bidding went through the roof. The final price was staggering, $19.60 million. But how did a coin that was once worth just 1 cent become worth such an astronomical sum? The answer lies in its extreme rarity, combined with the high demand from collectors. The 1982 copper pennies were only produced in limited numbers, and very few remained in excellent condition. The combination of rarity, historical significance, and the minting error made these coins highly valuable to collectors, who were willing to pay top dollar to own one. The fact that the penny had been sitting in circulation for years, undetected, only added to the mystique and allure of the coin. It was a treasure that had been hidden in plain sight. The 1982 copper penny, once just a piece of everyday currency, had become one of the most valuable coins in the world. Its story captivated the numismatic community and beyond, with people fascinated by how such a simple error could lead to such immense wealth. It was a reminder that sometimes the most valuable things in life are the ones we least expect. For the lucky few who had the foresight to recognize the rarity of these coins, the reward was unimaginable. The story of the 1982 copper penny is more than just a tale of a rare coin. It's a reminder of the beauty and unpredictability of the world of collectibles. In a market where even the smallest mistakes can lead to extraordinary value, this penny serves as a symbol of how a single moment in time, a small error in the minting process, can result in a treasure that is worth millions. The story of the 1982 copper penny is one of those fascinating instances where the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and a simple coin becomes a piece of history. So, how did the coin get to be worth so much? As with most things in the world of collectibles, it's a combination of rarity, demand, and the right timing. The 1982 copper penny wasn't just any coin. It was a part of a brief moment in history, a mistake in the minting process that resulted in a very rare and highly coveted piece of currency. Over time, the market for rare coins like the 1982 copper penny grew, and the demand for these coins skyrocketed as collectors and investors sought to own a piece of numismatic history. When the penny was finally sold for $19.6 million, it was a testament to how a simple mistake could lead to a life-changing fortune. For collectors, the discovery of the 1982 copper penny was akin to finding a diamond in the rough. It was a hidden gem that had been overlooked for years, but once it was uncovered, it became a symbol of the thrill of the hunt. The story of the coin's rise in value is a perfect example of how the world of numismatics can surprise us, with unexpected treasures lying just beneath the surface of our everyday lives. A penny that once seemed ordinary had transformed into a symbol of incredible wealth and value. But the story doesn't stop there. As more collectors began to search for the 1982 copper pennies, they uncovered more and more examples, though very few in perfect condition. The rarity of these coins, and the growing demand for them, ensured that their value would only continue to rise. The world of rare coins is often filled with stories like this. Stories of incredible finds, unexpected fortunes, and the magic of discovering something valuable in the most unlikely places. The story of the 1982 copper penny and its $19.6 million price tag is a testament to the strange and unpredictable nature of the world of collectibles. It's a reminder that the value of a coin isn't always tied to its face value. It's about the rarity, the condition, and the story behind it. And sometimes, those stories can lead to extraordinary sums of money. Thank you for joining me today as we explore the incredible story of the 1982 copper penny. I hope you found it as fascinating as I did. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories about rare coins and collectibles. Who knows what other treasures are out there waiting to be discovered? Until next time, keep an eye on your pocket change. you never know when you might find a piece of history worth millions. Last 2000D, I'm thrilled to have you here again. Today, I'm diving into an incredible story that sounds almost too wild to be true, but it is. This is a tale of rarity, mystery, and fortune, and it revolves around a coin that might not look like much at first glance. But behind this simple piece of currency lies a fascinating story of unexpected treasure, jaw-dropping value, and the incredible world of numismatics. Today, we're going to talk about the 2000D 1-cent coin, a penny that's worth a staggering $43 million. Yes, you read that right. A single penny, produced as part of a regular minting operation, but one that would become a rare, highly sought-after piece of history. This story is one that could almost feel like it came straight out of a movie, but the reality is even more captivating. To understand just how this coin ended up being worth so much money, we'll need to take a step back and examine the events that led up to this rare and incredible discovery. It's a story about precision, mistakes, and the hidden value of seemingly ordinary things. The year was 2000, and the U.S. Mint was doing what it had done for years, striking coins for everyday use. The 1-cent coin, or penny, had been in circulation for more than a century at that point, and it was a staple of the American economy. The penny had evolved over time. Its design changed and modified to reflect the times, but by the year 2000, it had settled into its familiar appearance: Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. This design had been used for decades, and people paid little attention to the details of the coins they used. After all, pennies were simply pennies, small, low-value coins used to make up the difference on purchases that were often too trivial to think about. But the year 2000 was unique in several ways, one of which was the way in which the U.S. Mint was dealing with the production of these pennies. As is often the case with coins, the U.S. Mint occasionally experiments with the metal composition or the design of certain coins. It was also a time of high demand for coins, particularly pennies, as they were being used more frequently due to inflation and the increasing cost of goods. The mint was under pressure to keep up with this demand, and sometimes, in these large-scale production runs, mistakes are made. The 2000D penny, which was struck at the Denver Mint, was not initially viewed as anything remarkable. Like the millions of other pennies that were produced that year, it was sent into circulation and quickly found its way into people's pockets. It was used for small purchases, tossed into change jars, and generally treated as just another everyday coin. However, among all the coins produced, a tiny mistake went unnoticed. It wasn't an obvious flaw. This wasn't a case of a major misprint, nor was it something that could be easily spotted by the untrained eye. No, the mistake was far subtler than that. What made the 2000D penny stand out from the rest was a very specific error in its design. There was a flaw with the minting process that led to a small but significant anomaly. The reverse side of the coin, which typically displayed the Lincoln Memorial, was struck with an engraving that was much more pronounced than usual. The details of the structure were sharper and clearer, almost to the point of being too crisp compared to other pennies minted in the same year. The flaw wasn't immediately apparent, but for those with an eye for detail, it became obvious that something wasn't quite right. And this small difference would turn the coin into something far more valuable than any of the others produced that year. Now, to fully appreciate the significance of this error, we need to understand the importance of rarity in the world of numismatics. Coin collectors are a meticulous group of people, often searching for coins that feature unique traits, whether it's an unusual minting error, an atypical wear pattern, or a rare design variation. For these collectors, the hunt for a coin with a small anomaly can be incredibly rewarding, both financially and personally. And when a coin, like the 2000D penny, which was produced in a fairly high quantity, emerges with an unusual detail, it quickly becomes a target for collectors looking to complete their collection with a prized piece. What makes this specific 2000D penny so special is that it wasn't just a minor imperfection in the engraving. It was an example of what's known as a double die error, a mistake that occurs during the minting process when a coin is struck more than once. This phenomenon leads to a doubling effect on certain details of the coin, and when it happens, it can be worth a small fortune. In the case of the 2000D penny, the doubling effect was subtle but noticeable, especially in the lettering and the fine details of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse side. For years, these pennies went unnoticed. Most people, upon finding one, simply dismissed it as another penny and went about their day. But eventually, word began to spread within the numismatic community. Coin collectors began to notice that certain 2000D pennies were different from others. Some had these doubled features, while others did not. As the realization spread, the rarity of these particular coins became clear, and their value began to climb. At first, these coins were selling for a modest premium over their face value, perhaps a few $100s for a specimen in excellent condition. However, as more collectors sought after them, and as more people began to recognize the significance of the error, the price continued to rise. The hunt for a perfect specimen, one that displayed the double die error in the clearest way possible, became an obsession for some. And when the first few specimens began to appear at auctions, the bids went through the roof. This was not just any penny. It was a unique piece of history, one that was sought after by the most dedicated coin collectors in the world. As with many rare and valuable collectibles, the demand for the 2000D penny began to outpace the supply. Only a small number of these pennies had the distinctive double die error, and as more people became aware of the rarity of the coin, the price continued to escalate. Eventually, the value of the 2000D penny reached a truly astronomical figure. One particularly rare specimen, in mint condition with the error clearly visible, was sold for a staggering $43 million. How did a coin worth just 1 cent become so valuable? It all came down to rarity, condition, and the story behind the coin. In the world of numismatics, some coins become worth millions simply because they are the last remaining examples of a specific error or design. This was the case with the 2000D penny. The coin had survived the decades in relatively good condition, and only a handful of them were discovered with the rare double die error intact. To collectors, owning such a coin wasn't just about the monetary value, it was about owning a piece of history. A coin that was never meant to be rare, yet became so through an unlikely mistake. It's the kind of story that makes the world of coin collecting so fascinating. The 2000D penny's rise to fame didn't just capture the attention of collectors. It also brought mainstream attention to the hobby of numismatics. People who had never thought much about coins suddenly found themselves fascinated by the idea that something as humble as a penny could be worth millions. The story of the 2000D penny went viral, and the idea that rare coins could hold such immense value started to gain traction. It was a lesson in how history can be hidden in plain sight, and how something as simple as a minting mistake can lead to extraordinary wealth. But the story doesn't end with just one coin. As more collectors began to search for 2000D pennies with the double die error, the market for these rare coins exploded. What started as a modest discovery grew into a worldwide search for the remaining examples of this incredibly rare error. People scoured their coin collections, examined their spare change, and even sought out bulk bags of pennies in the hopes of finding another example of this extraordinary coin. Some people even began to buy up entire collections of pennies from the year 2000, hoping to strike gold by finding one of these rare specimens hidden among the others. For those who were able to find and secure a 2000D penny with a double die error, the reward was immense. Many of these coins sold for millions of dollars at auction, and their prices continued to rise as the demand for them grew. The 2000D penny became a symbol of the thrilling pursuit of rare collectibles, and its story inspired countless people to dive into the world of numismatics, hoping to find their own hidden treasures. How did a coin that was meant to be an everyday piece of currency end up being worth $43 million? The answer lies in the combination of rarity, timing, and the passion of collectors. What began as a small mistake during the minting process turned into one of the most sought-after coins in the world. The 2000 penny is a reminder of how valuable things can sometimes be, even if they seem insignificant at first. It's a perfect example of how rarity and history can transform a simple coin into a priceless treasure. Thank you for joining me today as we explored the fascinating story of the 2000 1-cent coin and its rise to a $43 million price tag. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more incredible tales from the world of rare coins, collectibles, and the hidden treasures that exist in our everyday lives. You never know, your next penny could be worth more than you think. Until next time, keep your eyes open for those hidden gems.